That's the SOP.
Yes.
Now, what you were instructed to do was to cancel ad hoc deployments. So what I say I do not understand is, what's cancellation got to do with the SOP steps? I do not understand that cancellation must follow SOP steps. That's my difficulty. And for you to go so far as to say that I did not cancel because consideration had not been given to the content or contents, as you say, of the SOP.
Let me try and make Commissioner understand. The SOP is it's a directive to all the departments, right? If the Commissioner agrees with me that this SOP was meant to say to the departments, follow the following steps, and it happens that this one department does not comply, right? And my superior takes notice of that. I'm saying logically, he should have directed this instruction back to the department, because the department is guilty of not complying with a directive by the city manager, but instead he directed the instruction to me. Then I went further to say, if we go through the content thereof, this directive does not...
No, don't conflate two issues. What you are saying now about directing to the initiator is about a separate ground for refusal to cancel. That's 8.2. That's a separate ground. So don't conflate the grounds. I'm directing you to 8.3, which is a separate ground. And in 8.3, you say that they did not observe the contents of the SOP. So what I'm saying to you, if the SOP is about the beginning all the way to deployment, when you cancel, that's beyond deployment. So that's beyond the SOP steps. So my question is, what's the relevance of the SOP steps to cancellation, which is beyond those steps, or put differently, which has nothing to do with those steps? That's my simple question.
Maybe I'm struggling to understand the Commissioner's question.
Let's take it one step at a time. Do you remember my very first question when engaging you now? My very first question was, is it not so that the standard operating procedure, the SOP, is about steps that must be followed from the time a request is made up to the time a deployment is authorized? And you said that indeed is so. Do you remember that? That was my first question, and your response was in the affirmative. Do you remember that?
I do.
Yes. So what I'm saying now is, so the SOP is up to the point of deployment. So once you have authorization that there be a deployment, you have covered all the SOP steps. You are done with the SOP steps. Do you still follow me?
I do.
Yes. Now, you are given an instruction to cancel. You do not cancel. And you say one of your reasons for not canceling was that they did not observe the contents of the SOP. Now I'm saying cancellation is way beyond deployment. Deployment or authorization of deployment being the last step of the SOP. So cancellation is beyond all that. And I'm saying I do not understand what the relevance of the SOP steps or content is when you are talking about cancellation? Surely you understand me. Do you understand me?
I hope I understand you. And
So why was that relevant when you refused to cancel? Why was the SOP of relevance?
the SOP will remain relevant, Commissioner. 4, this SOP is an instruction.
To do what? To do what?
It's an
Or instruction on what?
It's an instruction to the departments
Towards deployment.
towards deployment. I agree.
And once you deploy, you are done with SOP, aren't you?
Once
You've deployed, you are done with SOP, correct?
correct, Commissioner.
Yes. Why does it become relevant now beyond that point?
It became relevant, Commissioner, because of the actual deployment that were carried out without observing or taking this SOP into consideration. I mean, we are here today, Commissioner, because of irregular deployment. Irregular.
Would the relevance not be that it had not been observed and therefore the deployment was not authorized? Is that not the case? Or would that not be the case?
That would be the case.
That would be the case.
Yes, Commissioner.
So all the more reason for you to cancel, not so. Instead of saying, by the way, you did not observe the SOP and therefore because you did not observe it, I'm not going to cancel. It's all the more reason that you should cancel. If you say it was not observed and therefore the deployment was improper, all the more reason that you should cancel. So I still do not understand your reasoning.
Yeah, there is nothing wrong with the Commissioner not understanding my reasoning, but from where
Make me understand. Make me understand.
From where I am sitting, Commissioner, right, with my administrative experience, when
which I don't, which I don't have.
Okay, Commissioner, from where I'm sitting, I expected my superior, right, upon realizing that there are these irregular deployments, right?
Irregular under the SOP.
Exactly.
Failure to follow some or all of the SOP steps.
Exactly.
Yes.
So I would have expected of him to say, city manager, here is a department which chose to do things out of the normal way as per this. But instead, right, my superior instruct me to cancel. Fine.
You are again conflating grounds now. You are again conflating grounds. You are talking about why you, Inspector Malachi, did not cancel. You have accepted just now, a couple of questions back, you have accepted that failure to follow the SOP steps would have been sufficient ground to cancel. You have accepted that. And I then said, so all the more reason that you should have cancelled. Whether it should have been taken to someone else and so on, that's a totally different basis for you not cancelling. And that is not what I'm addressing. I'm addressing the A ground that you yourself have given, 8.3, as a ground for not cancelling, for Director Malachi not cancelling. Not about this, or rather a need for this to have been taken to someone else. I'm talking about a ground that you have given for not cancelling, or for Director Malachi not to cancel. So what I'm saying is, would it be logical for you to say I did not cancel because the SOP was not followed, rather than saying because the SOP was not followed, indeed I ought to have cancelled, or that was reason enough for cancelling, instead of giving it as a reason for refusing to cancel? That's what I have difficulty with. Do you understand me now?
Commissioner, I understand you, but I'm also having a difficulty with the commissioner, singling out one reason.
No, you have itemized them as separate grounds. You did it. Of course, I understand that in the end, you may look at these cumulatively, but looking at this as a ground on its own, I'm saying it is simply not a ground at all. Because even if you look at them cumulatively, this one should not come into the equation at all, because it does not make sense. You may have your other reasons. Maybe this should have been taken to A, B, C, D instead of me. That's something else altogether. But to have this as a ground or a basis for not cancelling, it does not make sense. Because not following the SOP steps should actually have been a reason to cancel. So you should not have included this at all. Do you get me?
I get the commissioner, and
Yes.
I get the commissioner. I
Yes.
understand the commissioner's reasoning, right? I mean, I understand
Yes.
the reasons given to me by the commissioner that I should not have included this one, right?
Yes.
And
So let's please forget about it, Director. I thank you very much. That's all I wanted. Thank you.
Can I just add to this conversation that the other reason you give is that the instruction was not directed to the initiator
yes,
of the ad hoc services, and this is Water and Sanitation Department. That's who you're referring to.
correct.
But you made the appointment. Your department made that appointment. We know specifically Klapperkop and Brickfield you did, and then we know that the balance of them, you had given Piri instruction to run with this, and you earlier accepted that it was an instruction to execute the request. So you did the appointments, you are the right person to terminate, because Water and Sanitation didn't make the appointments, they were made by you.
We're talking in respect of Klapperkop
And the ones that Piri issues letters, the
the
list,
addition-
remember they gave him a list, and then he issued letters, deployment letters. So it's your people
yes.
that have done the appointments, so it's your people that would terminate.
No, yes, with regard to the Klapperkop one and the ones in respect of which GL account numbers were provided, it's me who issued the instruction, and then
And the others, it's Piri who issued instructions saying he acts on your instruction. So it's your people, it's APSS that gave Goobies the instruction to proceed with the service. That's surely you accept that's a fact. That's how it happened. We have deployment letters from Mr. Piri. Is he not in your department?
he is.
Yes. So your department issued deployment letters
Yes,
through Piri and through you in that email of the 7th, right? Where you say they're starting to work on the 7th. So you are the right people to terminate because you're the people that appointed. So reason 8.2 doesn't hold either as a ground for refusing to terminate. It can't hold. You're appointed.
you know, with regard to the club, you know, my email is very specific. It is very specific to say Klapperkop, this. In respect of that, yes, it's us who could have terminated the.
And the same with the balance that Piri issued deployment letters. Goobies relied, remember, you know this story. After they received the termination letter, they went they responded to Deputy Commissioner Spies and said, but we have letters of appointment. So it's that simple. Your department made the appointments because the authority to appoint lies with you. It's not the client that makes the appointment. Can we agree that?
I agree with the Commissioner in respect of the Klaperkop ones.
The Piri ones, did the water and sanitation make those appointments?
From where I'm sitting, right, water and sanitation made those appointments because they were...
So the deployment letter is not the appointing authority that gives them the go-ahead to work? Are you saying that's not the case?
In respect of the additional ones?
Yes,
No.
the one that were issued by Piri, did they not give them authority to go ahead and deploy?
They might have interpreted it as an authority to go ahead.
No, let me read for you, and I'm taking randomly to Goobies. This letter serves as a notification of deployment to Moreleta Reservoir Pump Station, effective 16 January at 6 a.m. Service provider, rate, and it sets out static officers, patrol officers, and patrol vehicle. It's exactly the same as your email. It gives that kind of detail, right? So, and it comes from APSS.
Okay.
Why are you creating a difficulty about this? This is an appointment letter that says you should go and work there.
No, it is an appointment letter.
Yes.
What I wanted to establish was, right, this appointment letter, right, is it as a result of a prescribed process having been
No,
followed?
I'm not talking prescribed process. Even your own appointment didn't come about through a prescribed process. You've accepted that, right? Your message at page 60, your email, it didn't follow the process.
Okay.
But there was an appointment, and it has contractual and legal effect. You allowed them, you authorized them rather, to go to that site in the same way that Piri did. There's really no difference between the effect of what you both did. And all I'm putting to you is, as the appointing authority, your department, I'm not even limiting it to you personally, I'm saying your department, as the appointing authority, it is your department that has the authority to send out a termination letter. That has to be right.
It is right, yeah.
Okay, thank you. So 8.2 is not a good reason or a valid reason for you to have refused to make the appointment. Yes. Now let's go to the last one, the third one, which is at 8.1. Okay. All right. Before I leave that 8.2, where you say the instruction was directed to the wrong person, you being the wrong person, did you inform Deputy Commissioner Spies that you're the wrong person, he should send it to water and sanitation?
Commissioner, I did not inform Commissioner Space.
All right, then let's look at the last reason that you gave. The instruction was wide as it included cancellation of ad hoc services which were not affected. Did you tell Commissioner Spies this?
I did not tell Commissioner Space, Commissioner. I took it that Commissioner Space, right, since he's in the environment, right, he's privy to ad hoc services within the environment.
But you didn't tell him that?
No, I didn't.
You didn't tell him that. Okay. Did you become aware when you made the decision not to follow his instruction that in fact there was an instruction from the Chief of Police that these services must stop because there were money issues, there were budget issues, there were requests to ask for more money? You're aware that Deputy Commissioner Dlamini had suggested or requested Commissioner Spies to ask for more money to fund this deficit. Did you ever become aware of that?
I do not remember, but...
Did you become aware that the instruction came from the chief of police that we must stop this ad hoc services and we are not going to ask for more money?
After the communication,
Yeah, you became aware of it after. Okay, thank you.
Director Malachi, I did the maths on. In the documents that you have provided, there's an email that shows what the cost of this ad hoc services to the city of Tshwane is. And we can see that it's 82 million over 5 months. I think it's on page 16 of the emails. Do you have that?
on which bundle are we, Commissioner?
I think it's probably the supplementary. No, it can't be that. Ms. Kakane, please assist me. Where did I pull out my page 16? It is in the statement file.
Yeah, it's in the
It's in the annexures to
supplementary,
the
yes.
supplementary statement.
Your statement file.
The supplementary statement file.
Page 16.
Are you there, Director Malachi?
I am.
So you'll see that it's a request from Deputy Chief Paul Hayes to the CFO and various other people, including supply chain. And then the email I'm reading from the third line, they are requesting the upliftment of funds to process ad hoc security invoices from the beginning of January to June 2025. Do you see that?
Yes.
And it is to the amount of 14 million rands for January, and then it is 16 million times 5 from February to June. And the total amount is 82 million. Do you see that?
I see.
That's just for ad hoc services.
Yes.
Now, if you do the simple maths, when you were instructed to cancel the ad hoc services on 13 March 2025 until the end of June, that's over 50 million rands.
I hear you,
What do you
Commissioner.
have to say about that?
I think there is something that I want the Commissioner to clear me on. It looks like everybody else, including the Chief of Police, Mr. Police, right? They are sort of taking themselves out of, they did not have any responsibility, so their responsibility was to give an instruction. And I'm taking exception for that because they even had more power than Director Malachi, right? And what is not making sense with me, right? Okay, theirs was to cancel, yet whatever I'm being appointed to do in the city of Tshwane, right? I'm doing them in their, on their behalf. They are overall responsible for my own actions. But when it comes to this, right, it is becoming a worrying factor that everyone else wants to wash his hands off and they leave Director Malachi into the 82 million. Yet, this whole thing, all right, had the history long before January, February, right? And if one looks at the history, right, Director Malachi was from the beginning, like any one of them, was not aware. He was made aware at a point when the service provider was complaining, right, that he's not getting paid. And the very same superiors, I'm talking the chief of police, Rivers, Peace, and Police, right? All of them are washing their hands, right? And they want to paint Director Malachi black as if Director Malachi had a benefit to derive from these transactions. And this is forcing me, Commissioner, to place it on record. I am not surprised by the emphasis on Director Malachi, because when I testified on the 9th of April, I made a mention of the fact that I have become a victim. And these colleagues that I've spoken to, that I've spoken about their names, right? They've already demonstrated that they would stop at nothing in order to get rid of this Director Malachi.
Let me stop you there, Director Malachi, because I had given you enough time and I did not want to interrupt you.
But Commissioner, you are interrupting me.
Because what you are doing now is you are saying you are being victimized by other people.
Exactly.
And I'm not victimizing you, I'm asking you questions. So your issues with them, you can deal with them separately. When you are answering my questions, I want you to account only for your conduct. That's why when I was referring you to this document, I wanted you to account only for your conduct, not to tell me about how your colleagues are treating you. So looking at this, let's assume for a moment that they are equally guilty. They are equally to blame. They could have done something. Let's assume that for a moment, and for purposes of our discussion, let's accept that that is so. Now, account for your conduct without blaming other people.
Commissioner, thanks very much. I am not reluctant or afraid to account for my conduct, but I think it would be fair and it will be just for this commission to know that, among other reasons, I might have done things wrong, if indeed I've done things wrong, you know, but the motivating factor, right, it's, I know, Commissioner, you are saying you don't want to hear about it, but I'm forced to talk about it, right? My colleagues wanted to take advantage of this commission to get rid of Director Malachi. That is why you go to my hearing, it's speech. You come here, it's speech, right? That in itself, to me, is an indication.
Director Malachi, I'm going to leave it there because it seems to me you don't want to account for your conduct. You want to tell me about the vendetta that your colleagues have against you. So if that's what you want to do and you're not prepared to answer my question, I'm going to leave it there.
No, I'm prepared to answer your question.
No, then account for your conduct. Don't tell me about the vendetta against you and the fact that they want to get rid of you. Because at the commission here, nobody gets rid of another person. Here you come to answer questions because we are a fact-finding commission. You assist us with facts and facts only. And what is in front of me is the fact that since the day you were instructed to terminate these ad hoc services, They continued until June, and the cost to the city was more than 50 million rands.
I agree with you.
Yes.
Commissioner, I agree with you. The cost is sitting at that, but I'm saying I might have not done, right? I might have not cancelled this, but that does not necessarily mean, right? They were supposed to sit back, get this, what you call ballooning and ballooning, you see? So I'm saying to the commission, I accept what might be wrong in terms of my conduct, but I'm pleading with the commission, right, to seriously take note of the fact that they also had a role to play. If I give...
And Director Malachi, when Mr. Bolhayes was here, if you listen to his evidence, you would have heard me say to him, why is it that only Piri is being blamed for this? Because more people than Piri were responsible for this, including those who authorized the payment. So as far as I'm concerned, it's not just you, but because you are here today, you can only answer for your conduct. So Mr. Skakani, I will leave it there and then.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners. I think you've assisted a lot with some of the questions that I had. Mr. Malachi, Director Malachi, I think what I need to emphasize is that you referred to your managerial, to your administrative functions in a sense, but you are at a managerial level. You are a director, you've issued instructions, you are in charge of the standard operating procedures. It can't be that you don't know how to enforce it. Your level also requires responsibility from you. And you do not stop these ad hoc services. And as Commissioner Kumalo is saying, if we are to accept mathematically that from the date of the instruction up to June, that would have been, I think in terms of the email itself, it would be around 50 million thereabout. But we can also accept that we need to take it back, let's say even to January, and the payments to Gubis, or as a result of the irregular deployments, which you've accepted. That for the 6 months alone is some 96 million, just for 6 months, just for ad hoc services. You accept that possibility, according to this email that you attach. So in essence, what has been lost around these irregular ad hoc services, which, as you say, not compliant with the SOPs, and yeah, just to leave it at that, would have cost the city, or in particular the TMPD, 96 million. And if you average it out in terms of the services, what becomes interesting is that as the theme runs through, is that Major Piri and yourself admit that the inspections or verification of services were not done to the T. So a majority of that could potentially have been for services not rendered. I think we can accept that.
I wouldn't accept the narrative that the majority of them might have been paid without the services being rendered. I'm saying this because, Commissioner, we've got a system in place, right? Even though it has its own shortcomings, right? But it cannot be correct that I come here and I say I accept that the majority of these ad hoc services were not carried out unless it is evident that indeed for 6 months on this side, there were no security guards deployed and so forth and so on, you see? But as it stands now, I wouldn't sit here and accept that, okay, the majority, because the officers got systems. Piri is within the subsection that deals with monitoring of private guards in particular, right? In terms of that system, the unit's function is to go out there, right? Check and confirm if security guards are in place, how many of them are in place, and so forth and so on. Because at the end of the day, these confirmations are critical for service delivery in the city. So,
I think in just remembering your evidence previously, you did accept that some may have been paid without verification, and maybe therefore without the work, and in some cases without the work being done because of your staff shortages. You did accept that. That's some.
yes, Commissioner, I did.
Yes.
And I gave those reasons. Yes.
Yes, you did explain. Thank you.
Just to test that forward, when we deal with some, would we say what's the degree of the system of monitoring? Because one of the issues was monitoring the progress of the sites that you had allocated. How often do you get reports about whether systems are run properly?
There are weekly meetings held with all service providers, in which meetings service providers are taken through challenges that APSS is experiencing in as far as monitoring and related functions are concerned. So on weekly basis, there is what we call operational meeting. And in that operational meeting, the monitoring team, right, takes the what you call through, and at the same time, it is the monitoring team that is addressing the what you call the service providers on things that are not happening, things that are happening, but upon which we need improvement. So.
Thank you. Then, if you go to the emails that you've provided, I would assume with these meetings, you would then be in a position to provide a report. In your bundle ST1, page 4, this is now in June. This is an email from Deputy Commissioner Rivers Peace to yourself on 25 June 2025 at 8:01.
Bundle 1, page 4.
Page 4
Okay.
of your bundle, of the annexes. You are required, that's in June. You had been requested in March to stop ad hoc services. So you have weekly meetings. So in essence, you would be quite aware of the issues around ad hoc services. But you say you've got a monitoring team and you would be aware. What was the difficulty with then responding to Deputy Commissioner Rivers Peace about these proof about ad hoc services? Because we don't have your response in paper and we have to deal with that. But what was your response? Because if you get reports, ideally, not all of them should be oral. You would have probably gotten if written reports around the meetings with the service providers or your monitoring team, do those reports exist? And secondly, why don't we see the response to Commissioner Rivo's piece? And to date, we don't have it.
I'm not sure, Commissioner, if I understand your question very well, but let me try and you'll indicate if I misunderstand.
Perhaps let Mrs. Kakane repeat the question. When we come back, we just want to take a 10-minute comfort break. Let's come back. Let's resume at 5 to 4. Let's adjourn.
Just lastly, one thing is within the mining chain directly, but there's also a mining supply chain going all the way down, right? I understand there's been allegations of barriers for local businesses to enter that value chain. Tell me more about that.
Sorry, repeat that again.
No, I was saying, there's an allegation or a sense that there are barriers for local businesses to enter the mining supply chain. So that could be not the actual mine extraction of minerals, but even further down at community level. Tell me more about that.
Oh, there are barriers. There are so many barriers, I don't know where to start. The first barrier is your construction mafia. We have all these syndicates and mafias in mining now that we never had before. There was always an underground mafia back in the 70s and 80s. That was primarily theft. It wasn't illegal mining, and the mines tried to work with government, security, police, and with the mine employees to try and keep a lid on it. But by the 1990s, they couldn't even keep a lid on that traditional, we call it underground, but I just meant undercover theft. But now you got full-blown syndicates and mafios and gangs, and they control more and more of all the acquisition that the government makes, and they're controlling more and more of whatever the mines want. Whether the mines want food or mines want diesel. Oh my gosh, the horror stories going on about a mine trying to get diesel now. They got to go through all these intermediaries. Most of them are crooked. They're all adding prices. Deliveries are irregular. It's really getting out of control, Ashraf. It is. I can't exaggerate enough. And so why would any mine not want to get something from the locals? All mines want to get along with the communities. And they pretty much have for 120, 130 years. But when the communities are provoked and fed propaganda by political parties, unions, and even government, saying the mines are stealing your minerals, the mines owe you, they persecuted your granddad, etc. It's revving up a lot of animosity and hatred that shouldn't be there.
All right, let's leave it at that. I wonder if I reach out to others whether they're going to have a different view, particularly mine owners who may be listening in. Peter Major, mining analyst, thank you for joining us here on The National Pulse.
When you listen to me, I feel important. When you hug me, I feel safe. When you talk with me, I learn.
Your love and attention helps your child grow strong and confident. Listen, comfort, and connect with him, because every child deserves to feel seen, heard, and loved.
Visit holdmyhand.org.za.
With the ever-changing financial landscape, it can be difficult to make sense of all the moves at times. Join me, Jimmy Moyaha, on the SAFM Market Update with MoneyWeb, Mondays to Thursdays, 6 to 7 p.m, as we break down the key market trends, top financial stories, and smart investment insights, all in one place. It's everything you need to stay financially informed and ahead of the curve.
I'm certainly counting down to tonight at 7 p.m. That's for the all-new season of Top Billing, right? It premieres on S3 So tonight, 7 p.m. with a repeat now thereafter every Tuesday at 9:30 p.m. on SABC 1. And with Top Billing now back, it's a bold new chapter, fresh new faces leading the way. Amongst those names, Arno Grief, together with Zozibini Tunes, just amongst the many new faces you're going to see tonight. Top Billing, you know it, is back. You don't want to miss it.
Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
Well, I certainly am aware of many people buying, predominantly Chinese manufactured cars in South Africa. It's like, hey, it's like 50% of German made cars. Who cares how they feel about it? I can get a good deal for myself. There's been the counter argument to that to say, well, is that short-termish? Because if it's only imported, what will it do to the motor manufacturing industry? It's an issue we visited often, not just here, but at some of the big motor events in the Eastern Cape, sometime last year, right? But I believe things have changed. There's a plan now to begin manufacturing in South Africa from jet to. Let's find out more about it with Pakamila Khlubi Majola, the Motor Industry Staff Association spokesperson. Pakamila, appreciate you connecting with us once again on the National Pulse.
Afternoon to your listeners. Thank you for having me on the show.
Thank you. So tell me about this. I mean, this issue of non-manufacturing or non-production in South Africa, which has been a big bugbear, you're saying that's going to change?
Well, yes, we definitely do view the announcement that was made by Jetour that it plans to produce some of its vehicles in South Africa as a very positive step. This is something that the Motor Industry Staff Association has really been driving since early this year to, first of all, we were one of the first unions to sort of try and dispel the fears, because there were a lot of fears around the involvement and the fact that our market has been flooded by Chinese vehicles, understandably so. A lot of the issues that people were raising were around the fact that there did not seem to be a shift towards local manufacturing. And as a union, we took a very conscious decision that this was something that we wanted to really push, and that we would do everything within our power as a trade union to even, make sure that we make this an important issue, because we feel that this is something that is, potentially could create more opportunity. So the fact that Jetour has made a commitment that it plans to manufacture 50,000 vehicles annually in South Africa, we think is a very, very good thing.
All right. So, I know we mentioned this before about this acquisition from Cherry, specifically of that Roslyn plant, right? So when you say it's a good thing, let's talk first from a business point of view. How will this change the business of motor manufacturing in South Africa? And then, of course, we'll talk about the impact that it has on the labor force.
So I think from a business perspective, there's obviously a benefit in the sense that you now have more competition, right? There's entrance of other brands onto the market instead of a dominant of a few. What that does from a consumer perspective is it creates choice. And one of the things that we've seen, for example, is that what the Chinese and the Indian automakers are bringing to the South African market is that a lot of the time their entry-level vehicles come with a lot of specs and additional perks that in other models you'd have to pay extra for. It has also made a lot of these cars a lot more accessible to younger workers, which for us as a trade union is very important, particularly in an environment where you have poor public transport infrastructure. But also, one of the benefits that we see is more jobs are being created. MISA is the largest trade union in the retail motor sector. We have seen a lot of growth in terms of dealerships, Chinese and Indian dealerships that have mushroomed all over the country, and that creates jobs. So for us, we do see a benefit, but at the same time, we were also mindful of the concerns that even we share as a union regarding manufacturing. And so this is why we feel that the fact that Jetour has decided to do this, we see this as a hopeful sign that hopefully even across other auto brands, more of this will happen.
And do I take it then from your side as the association, the Motor Industry Staff Association, do I take it that your intervention in speaking to the DTIC has made a huge difference, meaning that without the intervention, there would be less of an urgency to upscale the need to manufacture in South Africa?
We certainly, as MISA, believe that we've played a positive role in driving this agenda. We think that we made a significant contribution in placing this matter in the public domain, so that there's advocacy that occurs in the form of in the communication space, in the form of media and articles, and we've done that, and we also had direct engagements with the DG within the DTIC to raise this and say this is a very important matter that we as a union, as the dominant union in the motor sector, feel that government should take seriously, that government should ensure that these are some of the demands. I mean, if you want to do business in South Africa, all countries set terms for how this should happen. And we just felt that it would really be beneficial, especially if we want to tackle unemployment, poverty, and inequality in a meaningful way, for government to make this as part of its conditions that multinational corporations must manufacture. This is the arrangement that currently exists with the OEMs now here in South Africa, and it should extend to any OEM or any automaker that wishes to do business locally.
And I see the number I've got with the Cherry aiming to produce 50,000 units annually, 3,000 jobs in this case across the manufacturing supply chains will be created, which is just absolutely fabulous news indeed. Pakamile Klubi Majola, thanks for your time, spokesperson for MISA, the Motor Industry Staff Association. I'll get to your thoughts, your comments. You're on the pulse. Let me hear you after this.
Wherever you are in the world, SAFM 104 to 107 is accessible. We're also streaming live on Facebook, X, and YouTube at SAFM Radio. We acknowledge and appreciate everyone tuning in and watching our streams. Stay with SAFM 104 to 107 as we bring you Commission Live, breaking stories, and thought-provoking lectures. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
Right, let's get to some of your calls. Charlie in Coffee Fontaine, I think it is. Charlie, hi.
Hi, Ashraf.
Yeah, how's it, man? Go for it. What's your point?
Ashraf, I think it's time you stop giving guys like Simbanda airtime, because that guy is just spewing bile. First of all, if you are an asylum seeker, you cannot say you're applying for asylum coming from a country where there's no war. Secondly, you cannot say you're an asylum seeker, then you come to South Africa, open a business, which you don't meet the business requirements, and because first of all, you did not apply for a business visa. And also, when we say that foreigners are taking jobs, we South Africans are fighting that so that people in the low-skilled sector should get the minimum wage. Now, they are against.
It's all of them since December 2024 to date. That is, the date of the email is 25 June 2025. So essentially, it means all of them. And it does not appear that you had any request for clarity. Instead, you forwarded that to your PA.
In terms of request for deployments, I know there was a detailed response by my office as to where ad hoc services are deployed and so forth and so on. The fact that it is not part of my bundle does not necessarily mean we did not provide that proof, and I can always go back and have that the kind of proof that we provided to him available for the Commission to.
Thank you. I think there's also a follow-up in that aspect, but I think I take your point that you don't have it handy, and perhaps when you return for re-examination, if it's at a later date or just before, you can provide us with that report. That would be of great assistance.
Thank you.
Just on this score, there's in response to a particular question about termination of the ad hoc services. At page 3 of the statement, paragraph 10, it was about this, you, in that paragraph, you said, page 3.
Page 3
of the
statement.
supplementary statement.
Yes.
Paragraph 10. You deal with the instruction from Commissioner Spies, and you say, which was provided, or the instruction was in March, but you then say in June, you complied with the instruction. You drafted letters for termination, and you personally called to the companies and served them with letters. And then you say, I've attached one of the termination letters, marked ST6. Please turn to page 35, which is your ST6.
Yes, Commissioner.
That letter is done by Commissioner Spies. Could you explain why would you say this is your letter? And he testified that it is letter.
Does he not say that he prepared the letters for signature by Deputy Chief Spies? That should explain the signature.
Exactly. You are correct, Commissioner.
It was for that basis?
Yes.
Okay.
I prepared letters. I took them to him to sign, right? He signed. I convened a meeting with the 3 companies. I handed them over the original letters, and I kept acknowledgement of receipt letter.
Sure, that's fine. Then I will then go to the other aspect, which is, or the theme which relates to the cancellation of the tender. If I can take you to file 5. We can leave that as
file. Yes, I'm on the file.
Just as an introduction, it seems to be the case that that tender TMPD for security services of 2016-2017, up to date, well, it would have expired, but up to date, there's continuation of rendering of those services by those appointed or court-appointed service providers, meaning there's been no replacement tender. The attempt was TMPD 3, which was then later cancelled. Is that in line with the recollection?
Yes, as far as I'm aware, even though I'm 10 months out of active service, I'm aware that there is continuation by the court-appointed 22 entities.
Sure. Then if we go to page 2 of this file 5. Now, this relates to the evaluation of TMPD 3. And in that regard, you would have sat in the bid evaluation committee, correct?
Yes, Commissioner.
And you would have formed part of the recommendations or making recommendations to the BAC.
Yes.
And were you present in all the meetings?
I attended, I would say, all the meetings until meeting of the 28th. And on the 28th, just after I arrived in the meeting, something personal cropped up and I excused myself from the meeting to attend to this personal issue. And since then, I didn't attend any of the meetings that followed up. I didn't attend any of the BEC meetings until I was caught up in a situation where I got suspended, and from that day I don't know what has happened with the tender to date. So there isn't much I can testify on from the 28th to date, because I've not been able to attend to any meeting.
But you can confirm that there was a BEC meeting of the 29th?
29th.
Of May 2025?
I was not aware of that meeting.
Subsequently, have you become aware of it, that meeting, or not?
I don't remember becoming aware of it, yes.
And I would then presume that in the recommendations, you wouldn't be aware of, you wouldn't have participated in those recommendations to the BAC.
Correct.
Just to be fair to you,
you are referring to TMPD 3?
TMPD 3.
Oh, thank you.
Just to be fair to you, there's a document, the probity report at page 2 of this file, which is the only page I'm referring to is page 5 of the file, and the summary of the findings of probity. And obviously, if you go down under findings, which is section B, it talks about the BC score sheets on the 29th of May. However, to be fair, as you say, you did not attend that meeting and you are not aware of what has transpired since then, correct?
Correct, I'm not.
And it follows thereafter that there is a finding that they did not receive a score sheet from yourself in the evaluation meetings, correct?
Yeah, correct.
Okay. So you did not participate at all in the evaluation or scoring?
Exactly.
Mr. Skakane, maybe we should take Director Malachi to page 17, paragraph 55.4. And Director Malachi, just to be fair to you, we've established from the CFO that...
Sorry, Commissioner, it's paragraph?
17, paragraph 54.5.
Yes.
That the meeting was in fact on the 28th, because the recommendation, if you look at 54.5, it says the signed minutes for the 28th of May 2025 where the committee was recommending the tender TMPD3 for the appointment of a service provider were provided to us. And then based on the minutes provided, 3 members were recorded as present, and then it continues. So the issue here is there is no minutes of the 29th, and since the recommendation was made on the 28th, it seems likely that the scoring happened on the 28th and not the 29th. And on the 28th, you say you were there at the meeting.
I said I was there at the BEC.
At the BEC meeting.
But before the BEC could start with its business of the day, there was something personal, and then
You left?
Yes.
So you did not participate in the scoring or the recommendation?
Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I think that would sum up the factual, other than the propositions, which I think won't assist much. But the factual
basically,
evidence
we are done.
We are done factually, yes, thank you.
Or rather, you are done.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Kakane. Thank you. Mr. Gosi, about the re-examination, I think it cannot be today, and we are not able to postpone to a specific date because the chief evidence leader will have to be engaged with regard to scheduling. So we will postpone, and you and the witness will come back on a date to be advised. But you must be put to terms as to filing something that indicates what you are going to re-examine on. We want to give you until 5 May 2026, just for an indication of what you will re-examine on.
That's not a condition, so we'll definitely get that before that time.
All right. You are so directed then.
Sorry,
I'm saying Director Malachi is so directed.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, even though, of course, you will comply with your assistance, yes. Director Malachi, for now until the date on which you will be examined by your legal representatives, you are excused. You will be advised of the date in due course. Is there anything else? Let's adjourn and resume at 9:30 on Monday.
Thank you. Thank you.
But for now.
Okay, which means what? I mean, can we squash those rumors then completely and say, in fact, until we hear otherwise, that's it?
Well, they appointed conveners and deputy conveners only for regions. So he may still become a member of the eThekwini Regional RTT when those numbers are added. But he's not on the leadership position. And it's not difficult to speculate why, because there has been, I think, the provincial commissioner in Mpumalanga also made some very devastating allegations against him, and maybe politically they may have looked at him and said maybe he's going to be a risk because the local government elections are now around the corner. The date has been announced today, and there would not have been time to, if something happens to him, maybe he gets charged and so on. I'm just saying that because it was very strong that he was coming back, but then it didn't happen. They could have seen him as a political risk.
Well, I mean, let's talk about that part. As you said, maybe there's another position coming. We don't know. But why would he come back? What's in it for him? And why would, in this case, the African National Congress want him back? What's in it for them, considering that point you just made about political risk?
Well, he's a very charismatic man and is likable at ground level because he speaks his mind and he's able to face up to authority, and he is likable. But of course, some other people suspect that he's not very far from Mr. Jacob Zuma. That could have been another problem because what I saw them doing yesterday, they were making sure that the people that become part of the PTT are not people who may be ANC in terms of card-carrying members, but working clandestinely for the MK party, which could destroy the chances of the ANC, especially in eThekwini, to hold on to the city. So it's a lot of dicey situations. If he comes back, he will just be an ordinary member of the eThekwini regional task team, or maybe they could give him another position where he is not extremely prominent, to the extent that when all these things that are happening with the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee and other allegations around Madlanga and so on become real, and then he becomes a risk.
So, well, I mean, if he's going to become a risk, then all the more, considering again his own track record and the ANC's dealings with issues around policing, as per the Madlanga Commission, that sounds like not a good idea at all. But yet there could be a chance they could still do so. If they went ahead and did that, how damaging may that be then to the ANC, considering now we have an election coming up? Although it's local government election, but the season has started.
The problem with the issues related to, he served for 5 years as a minister. And then when Senzo Mtunu came, he came after 6 months, he wanted to disband that TKTT, and then also gave orders that the Madlanga tender be discontinued. There was a lot of panic, and what the SAPS top echelons started doing is to finger point at each other, and nobody knows what's going to happen if the commission, for example, continues after this, or if some court cases come up. So it's risky because in case that in 2024, the ANC was defeated by the MK party, which had not even campaigned all that much, but came from nowhere, and it was found that a lot of ANC leaders were actually working for the MK party. And I think that's why they're now being very, very careful as to who they bring in, also to rebuild the branches, also to ensure that, because as you rightly say, with all those things with the police and so on, the ANC is not currently standing in good stead in terms of the voters. So it's going to be an uphill, but they have to trust their foot soldiers.
Trust their foot soldiers. We'll see about that. Becky Cele making a political comeback. We shall see. Yes, no, maybe. Professor Musa Kulu, appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us here on the National Pulse.
The soundtrack of your life with Ernest Pillay.
Some songs take you back instantly to your first love, a road trip, or just simpler times. The soundtrack of your life with me, Ernest Pillay, is where timeless hits and forgotten favorites come together to tell your story. It's not just music, it's memories, moments, and the meaning behind this jam.
Don't you change someone by night.
Rediscover the songs that shaped your journey. Tune in to The Soundtrack of Your Life with me, Ernest Pillay, Saturdays and Sundays, 1 to 4 p.m., only on SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide.
Standing on his own.
Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
Right, we're going to get to some of your comments as well. And don't forget, you can text us as well or WhatsApp us, both options available, or call in live when we do throw open these lines. Right, here's one to consider.
Hi, team. This is Rodrigue here from Cape Town. I just wanted to comment on a point that one of the previous listeners had made, just on two things. Number one, not every refugee or every migrant flee war. And then number two, if an asylum seeker comes to South Africa and opens a shop, I do not see anything wrong with it, because what I remember when we fled my country of origin, my late dad was a pilot, and we came to South Africa. We had a lot of money. We could do a lot of things. So it's not everybody that runs away from war or runs away from, it could be political, it could be, there is a lot of reason why people flee their country. And when they come here, some of them have money, some of them don't have money. Those who have money, they do things with their money.
Those that have money, they do things with the money.
With the Ashraf and the SFM listeners, when it comes to immigration, the constitution is the one that's allowing all of this. So the parliamentarians must do as we South Africans want and amend the constitution. The laws in South Africa are contradictory. For instance, in the education sector, you must allow all learners, irrespective of their parent status, meaning also of their status. If they're illegal in here, you must give them education, whether you like it or not. So it's that with our hands are tied. So the constitution has to be amended.
But amended to be what? I mean, it was a fascinating conversation earlier this morning on Joanne's show about, what comes up for amendments every year. Not everything gets amended, but that is always open to certain clauses being amended anyway. Which ones and for what?
Yeah, good afternoon, Ashraf, and your guest there. I have this question which may be responded to in a practical sense, maybe a solution. Why can't the former liberation organizations or parties come together? I'm talking about your AZAPO, PAC, and the ANC, and assess the situation of the so-called freedom, whether it really is beneficial to the people or it is counteracting against them. Maybe their united voice and a united assessment may bring about calm to the country.
Okay. And here's an issue that was touched on yesterday too.
Hi, Ashraf and the SFM listener. You see, in first as they say, Pakistani and Somalian people who kidnapping like the South African citizen, while like we are in crisis with the foreigners, and all of a sudden the government will send in the police to protecting the same Somalian who destroying the life of the people of South Africa. So we don't know what to do like now. Whether maybe must we act, must we just open the case where like the police are the friend of those, because each and every day you see, the state van into the Pakistani shops, into the truck, lost people. What is going to happen now?
Well, look, I think there's certainly scope for a complete, investigation into all things around immigration, and like so many different angles to this that we need to. One thing is covering like the news story when there's marches, but the other is getting a deeper dive into the real issues around the multiple factors that impact around immigration or immigrants in South Africa and vice versa, right? Okay, let's hold that thought, but listen, if I put this to you to say, seriously, we know the complexity, but what's the win-win solution in dealing with what is now being seen as the foreign national question? What would your answer be on that? Let's now talk about another person, and this issue has been going on for a long, long time, that of Edgar Lungu after this.
The National Pulse, weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Right. There's, in fact, we just had the chat about the former police minister Becky Cele, and we chatted to Professor Musa Xulu just now, right? So we've just got an update on that. He's now been appointed as an NSC national convener for eThekwini today. So to confirm, there are 2 conveners per region. One is from national, playing a role of oversight over each in terms of election programs and their implementation. Then there is a regional convener. So in this case here, Becky Cele been appointed as an NEC national convener for eThekwini, and this is as per today. Okay, how does that change things in terms of the conversation we just had? Right, Edgar Lungu, let's talk about that. That's ongoing, right? The former Zambian President Edgar Lungu's burial remains this unresolved issue for over a year now since he's passing away. There's been this fierce legal battle and political battle at the same time between the Zambian government and his family. Well, today, there's been developments today. Let's find out more about it with Kaye Litle Kumalo James, SABC News reporter, covering that story. Thanks for joining us on the National Pulse.
Well, lovely. Thanks so much for having me, Ashraf.
Thank you. So what happened today? In court, I understand.
Well, so a very groundbreaking development today in court, Ashraf, in the sense that between the parties involving the Lungu family and also the Zambian government, they had a very mutual agreement. As you know, that this particular hearing today was precipitated by that urgent order that was granted on the 22nd of April this year, where essentially the family was totally opposed to the removal of the mortal remains of former President Lungu from 2 mountains burial services in Midrand to a state facility. So essentially what you've had today is that there was a very clear now directive from the court now that the remains will be kept at Afbob in Pretoria East, and obviously the Zambian government is going to bear the cost, but also in the event of refusal by Afbob to accept the appointment by the court, then there'll be another seating in terms of making that arrangement. But also what is very critical in this regard, Ashraf, was that there was a very clear understanding from the parties that, this matter has been very protracted. You look at the time when Mr. Lungu passed away on the 5th of June last year, and you look at the time now, but also we do understand that now the parties will continue with now the processes through the Supreme Court of Appeal.
Okay. And what was the mood like? Mood tone, because, I said so in the intro, there's a sense of attrition that's like long drawn, and you just wonder when will all this end?
Well, absolutely, Ashraf. We got an opportunity to speak to the family spokesperson, Mr. Makebe Zulu. You could really tell that he was utterly distraught by these developments, because I asked him directly. I said to him, Mr. Lungu passed away. It's been, 10 months or so? And also we're really approaching June and, being moved from mortuary to the other. A very terrible experience. And he said, the family will continue to fight this issue. All they want is for Mr. Lungu to be given a decent send-off. But whenever you just go through the legal documents, Ashraf, the Zambian government is very clear in terms of its own religious presentation and the heads of document. They're saying this is a man who's a former commander-in-chief of the armed forces in Zambia, so he must be given the state funeral with all religious, reserved to the former heads of state of Zambia. And obviously the family, they do have their own argument in terms of how Mr. Lungu was treated as a former president. But of course, this has been a very long-standing issue. And whenever you hear as well from the authorities even right here in South Africa, we saw last year with International Relations and Cooperation, Ron Lamola, went to meet with Zambian President Hichilema, and South Africa has been very clear that the two parties must negotiate, because at times the legal processes, they can be very long. For example, we know that now the family is talking about presenting its papers before the Supreme Court of Appeal in Bloemfontein around the 19th of June. So you look at that really time, it's a fairly long process.
Well, a long process. And we've got time. Let's leave it at that. Khayelitsha Khumalo James, appreciate your time here on the National Pulse. Time for me to pick up comments from you, which we'll do right after this.
Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
So what do you make of that? There's this ongoing story around the former Zambian president. What do you make of the conversation we had regarding Becky Cele and now a confirmation of sorts that in fact coming out of the conversation we had that he's now been appointed as an NEC national convener for the eThekwini region? What do you make of all of that too? Then the undocumented and what for you is the win-win solution. And then beyond that, of course, the conversation we had regarding car manufacturing in South Africa with Chery now committing to manufacturing in the country, which will bring in a whole lot of jobs as well. So all of that and more, you can add your thoughts and add your comments to that as well. Also, from a purely footballing point of view, you heard the SABC promo I mentioned. What do you make of that? The World Cup now upon us. And, of course, top billing, which you know we've been talking about a lot in the last few weeks. So it starts tonight. And yes, for many people, top billing has been a very aspirational program over the years because you watch it and you see the fancy homes and the fancy cars and the fancy lifestyle. And many people say, you know what, one day I want to be just like them. And that has helped, in a way, many people planning a career path that has got them to earn the types of monies to live that sort of lifestyle. So do you see that as that top billing being a very motivationally inspiring, aspirational program? And we'll see how it changes now that top billing is back. So I'd like to get your thoughts too. We'll be watching tonight at 7 p.m. 4:30, here's the news headlines with Ondela.
Thank you, Ashraf. On the news headlines, President Cyril Ramaphosa says there must be continuity even after new councillors and mayors are appointed following the local government elections. Ramaphosa has announced the 4th of November as Election Day, and the EFF says it welcomes confirmation by President Cyril Ramaphosa that the Special Investigating Unit is still probing alleged academic fraud at the University of Fort Hare in the Eastern Cape. And the Pan-African Parliament has elected new leadership in Midrand, with Algeria's Fateh Habib Boudadou taking the presidency. A full update follows at the top of the hour with Garachos.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Our top story, the closure of the N14 between Vryburg and Kuruman. This is from the northwest going into the Northern Cape. That is due to some really significant flooding that happened as the forecast cut-off low arrived into that Northern Cape area. The really severe flooding just north of Kuruman. Rather sit tight than try and get through there at the moment because you won't be able to. Not much in terms of alternative routes, and if there is, they're probably underwater as well. So a re-evaluation between Kuruman and Vryburg required. We're also just watching a major delay unfold. Northern parts of KZN. This is the R66, R34, south of Melmoth, between Ndundulu and Kwelili and Melmoth, just up by Wessels-Winkel. A big truck overturning this afternoon. It is across the road. It is loaded across the road. Again, if you're going between Ashawi and Melmoth, you might want to hold back. And again, just travel later once that scene is being cleared and the road is being reopened. Durban's N2 running north quite heavy today up towards the Komarshu Highway, southbound slow from Gateway heading down to Komarshu as well, and Cape Town N7 Jake Scoville Drive heavy both ways into the construction at 4 Trekker Road. Quite a bit of pressure down South Peninsula Fishhooks Main Road up to Clovelly busy, and with a long weekend it's quite heavy getting out through Somerset West with queues from Broadway Boulevard through to about the Gans Park area. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
This is SAFM Sports with Duming Khapele.
Well, to me, I'd love to say run, Wade, run, but you're going to say no run, Wade.
Yeah, absolutely. World record holder Wade van Niekerk has withdrawn from the World Relays due to a hip injury that he sustained at the National Championships. Van Niekerk will be replaced by Bradley Maponyane, although final entry lists have already been published, and he joins the likes of Sinesipho Dambile, who's also withdrawn due to injury. So a lot of people just looking at that World Relays just to see that final team, how it's going to shape up. But we'll continue keeping a close eye on that developing story. In terms of football, it's a good day for Kaizer Chiefs legends Dr. Khumalo, as he'll receive a special honor this afternoon when his name will be elevated with an honorary doctorate. He'll be conferred with the Doctor of Philosophy and Science honoris causa from the Faculty of Science. Tshwane University of Technology described the honorary doctorate as one of the highest academic honors awarded to individuals whose impact extends beyond their professional field. So a big congratulations to this football legend. I mean, we've seen his career, his influence on the game, his contribution to football development, and I think this recognition really fits well, and it also just acknowledges that sport is not just played, it's studied, it's taught, and it's a science, and it's also a statement that sporting excellence belongs in academic spaces too. So a big congratulations to Dr. Khumalo. Meanwhile, TS Galaxy attacker Junior Zindoga says that the players must also take responsibility for the poor run of results that ultimately cost coach Adnan Beganovic his job. Chairman Tim Sugazi made the decisive call last week, ending Beganovic's 3-year spell after a damaging 10-match winless streak left the club starting or staring at the threat of relegation. And just speaking ahead of the Nedbank Cup final against Durban City in Polokwane on Saturday, Zindoga admitted that the squad shares the burden of the team's struggles.
Look, I think it's part of football. It's unfortunate, we obviously grow a connection with our coaching staff, and we obviously take responsibility. The 11 guys on the pitch and the guys in the stands and on the bench. We accept that it's our fault. We did let the gaffer down. We tried to execute the plans as much as possible, and as footballers, we have to be professional. We have to always look forward. And, we wish them well, and obviously we have to focus on our remaining games. And, we just have to be responsible as professional athletes, and, as a club, we just come together and we go in a new direction, in a new era.
Meanwhile, Kaizer Chiefs co-coach Cedric Kaza says that they have no choice but to rise to the occasion in their next game against Betway Premiership Log leaders Mamelodi Sundowns. This is following the 2-0 loss to Siwelele at the Toyota Stadium in Bloemfontein last night. The next 3 matches for Chiefs are very tough after Sundowns next Wednesday. They travel to Polokwane for a meeting with Kukune United next weekend and then have Amazulu on the 16th of next month. And Kaza admits that their remote hopes of finishing second are after the loss yesterday. In cricket, Proteas woman coach Mandla Mashimbi believes that captain Laura Fulvard has what it takes to be the greatest women's cricketer of all time by the time she retires. At the age of 27 years of age, Fulvard has established herself as a vital cog in the South African senior women's team and is also one of the most revered batters of the modern game throughout the world. And Mashimbi says that he's expecting her to grow even more in the next decade and continue to break more records.
Yeah, it is scary to think that she's only 27 now and she can still play for another 10 years and she still has room to grow and become probably one of the best players in the world, if not the best player in the world when she probably decides to stop.
In rugby, Stormers director of rugby John Dobson is reportedly close to securing veteran Argentina lock Thomas Lavanini to strengthen the Cape Side's engine room next season. According to reports, the club are in advanced talks with a 33-year-old who is nearing 100 test caps for Los Pumas, and he is currently with the Highlanders in Super Rugby Pacific and has previously played for the Jaguars, Racing 22, Claremont, Lyon and Leicester Tigers, and he is seen as a replacement for departing lock Salman Murat and also Ruben van Heerden. I'll have more on other sports in the next hour. Ashraf, I think I'm super happy that Dr. Khumalo, who is the legend of the game, is really getting his flowers while he's still alive.
Well, I mean, the question is, what do they call him? Do they say now, doctor? Okay.
No, now we know that doctor is not a nickname. So when we say Dr. Khumalo, we know that that doctor part is not just a nickname.
Well, he may say, Doctor is an extension of like Bafana Bafana. You have to say it twice.
Wherever you are in the world, SAFM 104 to 107 is accessible. We're also streaming live on Facebook, X, and YouTube at SAFM Radio. We acknowledge and appreciate everyone tuning in and watching our streams. Stay with SAFM 104 to 107 as we bring you Commission Live, breaking stories, and thought-provoking lectures. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Right, Makwi Masilela is always with the facts and figures regarding the markets. You've got news about Globe Trade Center, Makwi.
Yes, Ashraf, this is a commercial real estate company operating in 6 countries, occupancy at 87%, average lease term for retail space is 3.6 years, and for office space is 3.5 years. And Ashraf, their net loan-to-value ratio, unfortunately, it was up by 8% to 57%. Remember, a higher loan-to-value ratio is bad for borrowers and indicates higher risk for lenders, and losses narrowed as headline loss per share improved by 22%. Ashraf, Chinese manufacturing activity grew more than expected in April, driven by robust overseas demand, while non-manufacturing activity lagged on soft domestic demand. And as expected last night, U.S. Fed left interest rates unchanged for a third straight meeting, but the committee members were divided on how to address the reality of inflation, which they are worried about. And we have seen late in the session that the European Central Bank and Bank of England also left rates unchanged, but Botswana became the first African central bank to raise interest rates, that is by 2% to 5.5%. Apparently, Ashraf, there's a report that the U.S. is considering potential military action against Iran, and that is to break the deadlock in negotiations to end the war. The global equity rally that has erased war-related losses is getting tested, with emerging equities measured by the Morgan Stanley Composite Index for emerging markets in the red, though they stayed on track for their best month since 2009. But the general global stocks got a boost from strong U.S. economic growth, which was fueled by AI spending and better than expected consumer spending. Also, falling oil prices are helping the market sentiments after jumping to a 4-year high of more than $126 a barrel on concerns that the Middle East conflict will worsen. The drop in prices from these intraday highs did not have an obvious catalyst, and we see Brent crude is down 5% at $109, but the yellow metal moved higher and due partially to an easing dollar. Market attention remains on diplomatic efforts to end the Iran war. We see gold is up 1.6% at 4,620, platinum up 4% at 1,962. Global stocks, Ashraf, are set to close April on a positive note, with the JSE up 1.3% and resources leading the pack, and the rand firmed up 1% against the dollar, 16.72, 22.66 against the pound, and 19.58 against the euro.
Right, got that. Thanks for that, Tamakwe. We've had an update. We have a markets, update for a deep dive in this case for 1 hour coming up from 6 to 7 this evening.
Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
So we're going to chat to Professor Stephen Friedman coming up just now, just about, rethinking South Africa's electoral system, and maybe even more so now, considering, I know we've had a general election 2 years ago, we have a local government election now confirmed for November 4th, right? So should we rethink it? We'll talk about that just now. In the meantime, what about you, right? I'll get to calls. Kaya Zulu in Richards Bay, right? You're live. What's your point?
Thanks for taking my call, Ashraf.
It's a pleasure, man. Go for it.
Yes, on illegal foreigners. But before that, by the way, you must check if so-called Professor Kulu is professor to start with, but that's not my point. You recall for sure that in the house of the president, those who have themselves in his money kept safely in the furniture, they were illegal foreigners, and I doubt working in the house of the president is a scarce skill. And if it's not a scarce skill, it's illegal to be employed. let alone to be employed by the first citizen of the country. You know the story of the trucks that were burnt in, on N3 some time back.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And check who owns these trucks, the majority of these trucks. Chances are that are our leaders. And you know the story of the tuck shops, There was a big story about tuck shops, register them, closing date, extended date, eventually, when it's not spoken about, is sorted out in South Africa. And I'm sure nothing has changed in terms of ownerships of the tuck shops. The drugs.
But how? I get what's your punchline here? What's your bottom line to this?
Our borders are not closed, and it's easy to abuse foreigners and to push them to push them as drug news and all the opportunities. You know, these low-hanging fruits that should be helping our youth run a tuck shop, work in the restaurant, drive a truck, work in the president's house. All those low-hanging kind of fruits are given to foreigners, construction sites, foreigners. And our youth is desperate and pushed to crime and pushed to drugs. You see? So the problem is not only foreigners. The problem is our leaders. They are allowing it. Seemingly, they are benefiting from it. That's my point. Thank you.
All right. Well, you've certainly made your point. And look, it's a narrative we hear just about every day. So I don't need to add to that. I just wonder what you may think about that, because I'm still looking at what would be the win-win solution in general regarding dealing with foreign nationals, documented and undocumented, and the fact that people in our country, all who live here, need to get on with their lives. And that includes jobs and having a sense of peace as well.
Those ANC members who prefers this kind of what is called a popular leader are sad, worried, and fearing of the future. As an ANC convener, I doubt so. Even if he is still known, Begicele should enjoy his retirement and preparing his autobiography and his political legacy. He is a historical figure now, a politically dead man walking and talking. Peter Rampatela-Mashid. Good afternoon.
Well, if that's what you think, why would the ANC then want to bring him back? I mean, what's in it for them? Think about that.
Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
Right, let's talk about the elections. Well, okay, firstly, we have an election coming up on November the 4th, local government election confirmed, right? So now you know. In the meantime, there's been a growing call to rethink the way we do our elections, our electoral system with, the coalitions are one example, winner takes it all first, past the post. If you don't get the 50% plus one, then at the moment, whoever gets the 50% plus one, if you don't get it, then you form coalitions to get it over the line, which means a party with 49% that's unable to mobilize 1% plus above that would technically lose an election, although 50% plus of the country would have supported, just about 50% would have supported them anyway. That's one. There's another issue around, the nature of coalitions and whether there's been this ongoing call of direct elections of a president, for example. Let's talk about that to someone who certainly follows that more than most. Professor Stephen Friedman, who's a political analyst and research professor at the University of Joburg, but also writes a fabulous column called Against the Tide. Prof. Friedman, thanks for joining us on the National Pulse. Yeah, Prof. Stephen, you there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, appreciate you joining us here on the show today.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank
Sorry,
you.
is there a problem with the audio?
Oh, I see. Okay, we have missed it. I said we need to read your Against the Tide column as well, just so that you know. Let's talk about, first of all, the need for electoral reform of our electoral system. Would that be against the tide?
Well, I don't think it. it's against the tide to say we shouldn't have electoral reform, because everybody who talks about it insists that it's absolutely vital. But I'm in the minority on this. I don't think that it would actually solve any of our problems. And I think if you want an illustration of why I don't think it will solve one of our problems, is that if you listen to the people who want electoral reform, what most of them want is the system we currently have in local government. Now, I don't know too many South Africans who think that local government is working wonderfully. In fact, most people think that it's the most difficult of the three spheres of government. So if what people want at the national, provincial level doesn't work at local government level, why would we want it at the other level?
But the types of reform that those speak about, what are they saying? One thing is saying reform, but reform for the sake of reform doesn't mean too much, is it?
Well, look, the argument, Ashraf, repeatedly is that look, there are various types of reform, which some people who want to, as you pointed out in the intro, there's some people who want to directly elect a president, and that's because that really emerged during the Jacob Zuma period, where people said, well, ANC delegates elect this person, and then because the ANC is the majority party, we land up with him. But there are others who say, well, the current system we have at national and provincial level isn't accountable. The parties decide who the candidate's going to be. We don't decide who the candidates are going to be. And therefore, what we want is a system like the one at local government level. And there are all sorts of problems with that, one of which I mentioned. The other one is that, if your problem is the candidates that parties select, then the solution to that is to make sure that citizens can participate in that process, which I think would be a valid reform. So in other words, if you want to choose the leader or the presidential candidate of your particular party, then you can register with the IEC as a voter for that party, and you get to vote in who the candidate of the ANC or the DA or the EFF is. That I think would help. But
so that would be at party level then, in effect, what you're saying, as opposed to at the national election or general election level.
Yeah, but you can't rely if you're going to do that. You can't rely on the parties to decide that. It has to apply to all parties equally. So in other words, all parties which wanted to nominate a candidate for president would have to allow people to choose, allow their voters to choose who that is, rather than just leaving it up to delegates at a party conference. And you could do that at various levels of government, so that your councillors, who people tend to often feel that are not listening to them, that your councillors could be chosen by registered voters of the party at the local level. The system's been rejected in the past by politicians, because they say, well, they have the system in America and it doesn't work terribly well there. But the problem in America is not the system. The problem is that rich people in America can buy politicians. So that kind of change would be very effective. But simply by introducing constituencies or introducing a presidential election is not going to make things better, and in some cases would make things worse.
I suppose a fair question to ask would be, what would be the purpose of, an electoral system, I would think, to come up with something that best serves the interest of the public, in this case, the people of South Africa. Does our current system, all things considered, do that? Do they best serve the interest of the people of South Africa?
Well, I think it probably does it more than any other possible system. The reason we have this system, the reason it was chosen in 1994, is that it's very inclusive. It means that if you support a small party, if you're a group of a relatively, small group of people who want a voice in Parliament, it's a lot easier under the system to get this. So that faith-based groups, for example, if you feel strong, if you're a conservative Christian and you want to be represented by the ACDP, that's possible under this system. If you're a Muslim who would prefer to vote for a Muslim party like Al-Jamaa, that is possible under our system. You find regional parties get a say. So it's inclusive. It means that there are very few South Africans who can say, look, I don't have a party, which I support a party which can't get into parliament. And if we give that up, we need to, because remember that if you have most of the systems that people are talking about, if you want to change the way things operate, you're going to land up with some sort of constituency system in which you are going to lose some of that because, not everybody can get elected in a constituency.
I mean, I think that's an interesting point because, you're quite right as you talk about it. We had, I think, the soccer party in the very first election. And, of course, you mentioned Al-Jamaa now. There's the African Christian Democratic Party. The question is, yes, you're saying that may fall away then if we went to reform. But these parties, there's a multiplicity of parties that we have now, right? But you're saying these parties at least give people a voice. Well, but does it actually give them a voice in Parliament? So if I voted for one of those parties with a unique, take on how the country must be run, do they actually have a voice in Parliament if they have, 2 seats or 3 seats at most?
Well, if they're good at their jobs, they do. Because remember also that this country is changing. Our politics is changing. And the way in which our politics is changing is that those days, which everybody remembers, in which one party wins more than 50% of the vote, those days are over. One of the features of the electoral system that we have at the moment is that if you look around the world, countries which have this or a similar electoral system, the biggest party in many of those countries gets 25, 26% of the vote. So that your government is always a coalition. And that means that if you're a smaller party and you play your cards right, you can have a say because, there's no, we're used to a situation in which there's one big party which decides what it wants at National Executive Committee meetings, and then that's what the law is. Those days are over, and because those days are over, if you're one of those smaller parties and, you're needed in a coalition, which very often you are, and you make sure that your voice is heard in that coalition, yes, you can influence decisions. We've even had situations here in local government over the last few years where you've had minority governments. In other words, the government doesn't have 50% of the seats. And in that case, your influence is even greater because in principle, anybody who can persuade a majority of councillors to take their view, whoever the government is, that will be the decision that is taken. So there are all sorts of opportunities in our new reality, which I think smaller parties can take.
Now, I'm looking at the example of the MK party, and it came up in last week's survey from the IEC that there's more than any other region, that region, KZN in particular, are less, I won't say concerned, that they are less committed to the democratic process. And what they see in this is that last election where they got close to 48% or something like that of the vote, but they don't have, they don't have 48% of the clout. 2 other parties or 3 other parties can come together, get a 50% plus 1, and therefore the MK party finds itself sidelined. Now, what do you feel about the principle of that? And is there a way where, in effect, every election, in effect, is a coalition? That means even if you get 48%, you can never be outvoted as they have been right now.
Well, I think that shows that the system works, quite frankly. Yes, actually, you do get 48%. It got, I think, 45%. The majority of voters in KZN did not vote for the MK party. 55% then voted for other parties. And if those parties are opposed to the MK party, then they're entitled to form a coalition. The coalition in KZN represents the majority of voters in KZN. And that's a very important part of the system we have at the moment, because if you have parties which, the MK party rejects the Constitution, for example, which it's entitled to do, but, if you have 45% voting for the party which rejects the Constitution and 55% voting for parties which are in favor of the Constitution, well, then the democratic outcome is that the parties which are in favor of the Constitution should win. And that's possible in our system. If we didn't have this system, in KZN, I would estimate that the MK party would probably have about 70 or 80% of the seats in Parliament, in the provincial Parliament, despite only 45% of the vote. If you look at Britain, for example, just to see how this works, the Labour Party in Britain at the moment has over 2/3 of the seats in the British Parliament with 33% of the vote. And that's what you get in constituency systems. So I would argue very strongly that the only way the will of the voters of KZN can be reflected in the government of that province is through proportional representation, because it gives each party the seats which in direct proportion to the number of people in the province who vote for them. And the government will therefore reflect what the majority want rather than what a very well-organized party. In India, Narendra Modi's party, which, is violently opposed to Muslims and is trampling all over people's rights, gets massive majorities. It's never got more than 42% of the vote in India. So do you really want a situation where a 42% party can get into power and start taking away people's rights? That's the danger you have in the constituency system.
Okay, fascinating indeed. And if people need to read more about all of that, go to Professor Stephen Friedman's column Against the Tide. Stephen, appreciate, as always, your insights here on the National Pulse. Reaction from you? Well, bring it on. I want to know, what do you think about that conversation we had around electoral reform or no reform? It's 5 o'clock. Here's the news with Greg.
Thank you, Ashraf. All systems go for the elections and Pan-African Parliament elects a new leadership. Good day to you. The DA says it's ready for the upcoming local government elections, which are scheduled for the 4th of November this year. This after the local government election date was announced earlier today by the President, Cyril Ramaphosa. The DA's Jan Villiers.
The DA is ready for the elections. Operationally, our messaging, our candidates, our voter interactions, everything is in place. We already have dozens of mayoral candidates confirmed, and no other party can say that. We've just come out of a very successful federal Congress with new and young leadership. We have fresh energy, and we are ready to fight. And last night, we won a by-election in George. The DA is ready. Let's go.
Meanwhile, President Ramaphosa says there must be continuity after new councillors and mayors are appointed following the elections. He says all municipal managers will return to their posts to ensure stability.
And of course, as with any election, everybody expects that they will be returning to continue with the work that they have been doing to serve our people. And I expect that many of the councillors and mayors who were here will want to be returned to office to continue with their work. Of course, to ensure stability, the municipal managers who are here will continue because there's a clear separation of powers and duties. The administration continues, and those elected will go out and campaign through their party structures and hopefully come back, continue their work of running local government.
The EFF says it welcomes confirmation by the President that the SIU is probing alleged academic fraud at the University of Fort Hare in the Eastern Cape. The party says it wants a speedy resolution to allegations that Premier Oscar Mabuyane, former Public Service and Administration Minister Uncommunicated, and Buffalo City Mayor Princess Faku allegedly enrolled for their qualifications irregularly. Mabuyane's filed a defamation application against the EFF leader for making those allegations as fact in public. EFF spokesperson Sinawa Tambo.
the President of the Republic of South Africa has affirmed the view of the EFF that the SIU investigation is still ongoing, and that in fact there was an extended proclamation in 2024 which extended the scope of the probe by the SIU into academic fraud at the university, which ensures that all of those who have been implicated can be probed and held accountable.
Supporters of musician Letlhogonolo Chauke, known as Shebo Mabona, have expressed disappointment after the Polokwane Magistrates Court in Limpopo dismissed his bail application again. He was applying for bail on new facts. He's been in jail since last year, facing charges including attempted murder and malicious damage to property, among other charges. The court was filled to capacity with his supporters. Some say he's not being treated fairly.
Mistakes happen and can be corrected, but the question remains, why others are granted bail while he is not? He is contributing to the probe of the Likombo genre. Some people are not supporting what he is doing and they are trying to bring him down. Last they postponed the case, now he is being denied bail. They do not want Shebo to go and support his family. They just want him to go to prison. People commit murder every time but get bail.
The Pan-African Parliament has elected its new leadership in Midrand, north of Johannesburg, with Algeria's Fateh Habib Bouaddad taking the presidency. In his inaugural address, he outlined the important contributions that North Africa can make towards the rest of the African continent.
There can no longer be talking about Africa without particular attention to North Africa and the strategic bridge between the countries and its Mediterranean and global dimensions. The countries of North Africa, particularly Algeria, possess potential and resources to make them a genuine locomotive of our continental integration. Algeria, under the leadership of the President of the Republic, Abdelmadjid Tebboune, plays a central role in promoting peace, development and integration, as well as in advancing African solutions to African problems.
The top story, the DA says it's ready for the upcoming local government election scheduled for the 4th of November this year. That's SAFM News. I'm Greg Khos.
In sports this hour, shortest ever uprun set for 2026 Comrades Marathon. Dr. Kumalo receives honorary doctorate from TUT, and playoff race heats up in SA Cup. More details at 5:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
A very good afternoon. A reminder, the N14 route is closed between Vryburg and Kuruman. That is some really severe and significant flooding on that route through. Not much in terms of alternatives. You can do it, but obviously those alternative routes may also be subject to localised flooding. Also, the R380 that links Hodazel to Katu is also under flood pressure as well. A lot of rain associated with that cut-off low making its presence felt through parts of the Northern Cape this afternoon. Looking at Gauteng, not too bad. The run-up through Midrand, maybe not as bad as you might be thinking. On the cusp of a long weekend, you might be thinking there's a bit of gridlock. It's not bad. Midrand looking okay. And even the Pretoria section of the N1, once you get past Rigel Avenue, it doesn't look too busy at all. Joburg's N3 South, Edenvale, down into Germiston stays heavy. Behind that, the N12 and R24. It's queuing coming in from the Ekurhuleni side. Durban, earlier crash, N2 northbound at Kumashu Highway, just slowing traffic heading that way. Not really badly backed up, but it is a slowdown. A lot of pressure between Sibaya and Kumashu on the N2 northbound to Sibaya, southbound coming through Gateway. It's fairly busy. Cliffdale Key Ridge is doable. No major problems there. And if you're coming out of Cape Town, pretty heavy out through Hospital Bend. There was an earlier crash at Lisbeth Parkway. It's being cleared, but it's left a backlog on Nelson Mandela Boulevard inbound on the M3 from UCT up to Hospital Bend, looking pretty sluggish as well. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
Stay safe on the roads. SAFM is with you. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
What an interesting conversation with Professor Stephen Friedman, isn't it? So what would you like to pick out from there in terms of electoral reform? Should there be electoral reform in terms of the way we run and govern our elections or not? And if so, if the answer is yes, what sort of reform? It takes on greater currency now that we know that the election the local government election is on the 4th of November. Finish and clear. It's going to happen on the 4th of November. Well, still to come, we'll have an update, a wrap of the Madlanga Commission coming up around 5:45, as we do every day. We'll also have, talking about elections, and just some of the issues now that we have an election date, some of the issues that the election will be fought over. We'll chat to Dr. Dale McKinley about that, right? But before that, University South Africa has put out a statement noting public statements by members of the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee on Higher Education calling for detailed disclosures on the employment of foreign academics. So once again, this has come to the fore because of the spotlight on foreign nationals. We'll talk about that after this.
SAFM has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Under the code, we are committed to giving news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that is not harmful, does not amount to hate speech, or contain violence or explicit sex. If you think we are not living up to that code, then you can inform the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Direct any complaints in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. PO Box 142365. Craig Hall 2024. Fax to 011-326-3198 or an email to bccsa@nabsa.co.za. For more information, please visit www.bccsa.co.za.
So from breathtaking homes and dream destinations to exclusive access to the people shaping culture and success, this is where style meets substance and every story shines. What am I talking about? I'm talking about top billing because, you know, it starts tonight. The new top billing features tonight, the premiere on S3 at 7 p.m., right? And then after that, with the repeat on Tuesdays at 9:30 p.m. And you can also stream Top Billing on SABC+. Top Billing, the best of the good life.
Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
So already you have your choice of a party. Have you made your mind up already in terms of your party that you're going to vote for, no matter who says what in the next few months? Or are you open to persuasion? And if you are open to persuasion, tell me now, what would persuade you otherwise? Now, you can mention party names if you choose to. That's your business. You can choose not to say, yes, I have a party, but I'm open to persuasion. And these are the factors I'll be looking at from another party if they want my vote. Yeah, I'd love to know. Let's talk then about this ongoing issue around foreign nationals. And, you know, we've been talking about undocumented foreign nationals to documented foreign nationals to people working, people having businesses. Well, what about academia? There's also been a call for disclosures on the employment of foreign academics in our country, particularly those not deemed to possess scarce skills. And even that's up for debate. So the Universities South Africa has put out a statement regarding just that. So let's find out more about it in terms of what their position is with Dr. Petiwe Matutu, Universities South Africa's CEO. Dr. Matutu, I appreciate you joining us on the National Pulse.
Thank you very much, Ashraf, and good afternoon to you and the listeners of SAFM.
Thank you. Why the need to put out a statement?
There is a need to put out a statement because we do have foreign nationals that we value within our higher education institutions, universities in particular, and they need to feel comfortable here, not feel that they are being looked at as being here illegally, or they are being looked at as taking positions of locals.
Yeah. What do you pick up from sentiments from people who've now been effectively asking universities to convince the public why they've appointed a foreign national in terms of his or her skill set? What do you feel about that?
The reality is that globally there is war for talent. So if South Africa's universities are to remain in the top of their game, there's no way in which they cannot invest in foreign nationals. That is in the nature of a university and the substance of a university. And so they do contribute enormously. So the most important is for them, once they are here, that they do feel comfortable and they feel needed and welcome in our country.
Okay, but the fact that people are asking questions about them, which means the logical thing is like, well, we need to be convinced that you would actually hire a foreign national academic versus a local academic. I mean, that's really the gist of the conversation, which, as you know, has been played out in so many other sectors of South African society.
That is the misconception. That is the real misconception, which we are trying to eradicate. The idea that foreign nationals are here in order to take position or to displace local talent is what we are trying to dispel from the public and from the policymakers. We are saying that there needs to be evidence-based discussions, because if we do not have evidence-based discussions, we're going to be going around in circles. As we speak, in 2024, the foreign nationals made up 14% of the total staff at universities.
Okay, the 14. And I mean, do you take it that if someone says to you that, yes, we're okay with that, provided there's no one in South Africa suitable for that position, that you may agree or in fact disagree because of the unique nature of the diversity needed in academia?
That is the South African law. We try to abide by South African law. But if you have advertised a position or you know that we are opening a center and it pertains to, let's say, within astronomy, we need experts from Chile due to their telescopes there, or we need experts from such and such a place who have been working on this area of astronomy. Definitely, it's important that you attract the skill set so as to create the necessary diversity that is required. Now, to say there's someone who qualifies locally, it's not clear what it is that you mean.
What about...
So if a university, I'm trained in mathematics by training. If a university requires growth in areas of mathematics which are very much aligned to artificial intelligence, and then I rock up to say I'm a qualified mathematician, what does that mean? So what I'm saying is levels of qualifications will differ on the basis of what it is that we are trying to create.
Let's then talk about this part as well, that is the diversity important? That means all things being equal, that yes, you may find South Africans who are very competent and qualified in South Africa, notwithstanding your point about mathematics, but even beyond that, that a university or universities with global appeal or aspire for global appeal would very intentionally actually want to hire foreign nationals wherever they come from to be part of our university communities. I mean, is that right?
The nature of a university is like that. However, there needs to be a balance. In a South African environment, we try to attract the skill set which is not around, because we do have the employment equity policy, which compels us to look internally first before we look externally. However, as I'm saying, South Africa is very much, I would say, it has got a very strong research prowess because of the areas that it has chosen, and it's well respected worldwide in that sense. And there's no way in which it's not going to be globally connected. Because of that, we send our students abroad, we send them to infrastructure abroad, to various academics because of the collaborations. Those academics, they spend some time here and they would spend some time internationally. So that is why our system is so well respected internationally.
Just
so
lastly,
now to make these people who come here, whether it's on a 6-month basis per year or they are here permanently, uncomfortable or being looked at as being here either illegally or closing positions for local staff members is just not on.
And the fact that, and lastly, the fact that your statement is a response not just to the general public, not just to people calling in on these shows, but in fact it's a response to members of the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee on Higher Education. What do you feel about that? The fact that they felt fit to effectively ask for disclosure?
No, there's nothing wrong with doing the necessary studies. But to make so much public, there are studies that we conduct within the system, and that's acceptable. However, if you're going to be putting all of that in the public domain before even the results are out, then that's where the discomfort starts, where the public starts to look at these people, oh, they may be here illegally, they are closing our spaces, and all of that. Do the work first. And on the basis of the work, then talk to us about the conclusions that you are making. As we speak, we have a study that is being conducted by Professor Crane Sodin, who's a respected social scientist. It's a position paper on internationalization, looking at the tension between issues of equity and also internationalization, which is required for every university.
Okay, let's leave it at that. Thank you for your time, Dr. Petiwe Matutu, the CEO of Universities South Africa. Much appreciated indeed. And let's get further comment from you. Just how compelling is their position from University South Africa to say, hold it, we have the diversity, we have to hire people, and simply saying mathematics is a bit vague. There are certain levels of expertise that you will not get in South Africa. You need to be international, and it's a competitive war out there because research funding, etc. Universities must deliver. They need to get the best people. I suppose in the same way you would think about getting the best for your local football team, isn't it? That's the nature of it. This is the National Pulse.
If you're active on social media and love SAFM, we hope you'll take a moment to like or follow our SAFM page on Facebook and Twitter. These are the best places to find all the guest information, conversations, and stories you love from your favorite presenters, along with regular updates from SABC News. And don't forget, you can send your questions to feedback@safm.co.za. SAFM, leading the conversation.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Right, so we have an election. By the way, I checked out my dates. There's already clashes there. There's the One Young World Conference, a summit in Cape Town on those few days, October 4th. I think it's 3, 4, 5 or 6 or something like that. You may find the same thing as well, like checking out your dates now and saying, oh, I've got this happening and I need to make a change. But while you have that debate, what it does not stop you from doing is voting, no matter where you are, because you can do a special vote, you can do that in person. It doesn't stop you. Now, having said that, we now know that November 4th, 2026, the date of the local government election. Well, there's lots to talk about there already, but let's talk more. Dr. Dale McKinley is a political analyst and researcher. Appreciate your time. Dale, thanks for joining us on the National Pulse.
Yes, thanks, Ashraf. Always a pleasure.
Thank you. So here's the first thing, right? We know it's a local government election. Can we judge, to what degree can we use that general election results as a trend or a takeout to be able to determine what's going to happen next?
If you're talking about the last national provincial elections.
Provincial and the national we had 2 years ago.
Of course, the last national provincial elections. Look, I think that there's quite a bit of a difference. The big difference is that not nearly as many people turn out for the local government elections. That's the trend, the first thing. And that's a bad news for the ANC in particular. All the polls are suggesting right now that the ANC is actually going to lose even more support than it did in the last local government elections, where it got just under 40%. Looking at most of them, you're talking maybe in the mid-30s if they do quite well. Whereas it looks as if the DA, on the other hand, is going to gain quite a bit of voting. And the MK is the other player that is coming up, just like it did in the national provincial. and it's certainly going to feature. I think it's probably cementing its place as probably the third largest party, and it looks like it will probably get more than the EFF, obviously largely in KZN, but other places in Gauteng as well. So I think what we're going to see in the local government elections, given the past performances, is we're going to see just reconfiguration of MK replacing EFF as the third largest party, the ANC and the DA remaining the first and second, but the shift happening that the DA is taking more of the slice and the ANC is losing quite a bit to either the no vote or some of the smaller parties as well.
Well, I mean, I suppose fundamentally then it would be, to what degree does National Party, and when I say National Party, I have to retract. It sounds like the National Party that ran the country for all those years, right? But let's put it this way: a party's national policy, to what degree does that policy that they have filtered down at local government election in them appointing a ward, representative?
Yeah, look, I mean, it's not really that important, I don't think, in terms of national policy. It's mostly what there's a feel. It should be that, you're choosing local government candidates, local councillors, based upon their popularity or their presence within that community, predominantly, or in the case of a municipality, those that you think have at least some degree of support. So that's why you, for example, in our city of Johannesburg, you're seeing, Dada Marrero, of course, who's been the mayor and stuff, basically getting pushed aside for the most part by his own party, because they're seeing that he's not going to carry the day. So I think national policy, yes, will set the broad sort of general agenda, but you can have very differentiations between, a party doing well in one local area and not doing well in another with the same policy, precisely because some of their local councillors are very popular, or they might have quite a bit of cachet with those constituents.
So with that in mind, and it's early days talking about actual numbers, but what should the political parties listening to us right now with their candidates, what should they be doing now that we have a date? What would you expect them to be doing in the next few months?
Well, the first thing I was expecting to have a core message. What is their core message? What are they telling South Africans they're going to do? I think most South Africans are fed up, and they want action. They want to see a party that's just not just talking the same kinds of things they've been saying for the last 2 or 3 election cycles. They want something new. They want something creative, and that's throwing the dice in the air in some ways of this local government elections, because if you look at the latest polls, what they're indicating is that almost half South Africans say they don't go with any political party. That's an amazing shift. So what that does is it makes things very unpredictable. And in that case, what political parties should be doing is trying to come up with a core message that captures, and particularly I think the youth, on that sort of, that 18 to 35 bracket, which is always never really electorally very participatory, but is incredibly important. And if you can capture that, or at least a larger portion of that part of the electorate, you can win other elections that in the past were relying on sort of your more loyal and more older base. So I think that's the key thing. And also, I don't think in the local government elections, the messages are really going to be about big international events and foreign policy issues. They could play a small event. It's about water, it's about electricity, it's about education, it's about health, it's about housing. What is your plan? What are you going to do? How are you going to do it? And when are you going to do it?
But isn't the case of very nice the problem? You see, a local ward councillor may make those promises, I can do this, I can do that, but ultimately he or she will take their cue from the policy of the party that they serve, right? And then whether the party actually can carry through on that is another whole debate.
Yeah, well, that's why the question you said, what's the party's message? So yeah, it's not, the individual candidates can sort of, sort of fill in some of that gap and make it sort of more localized in their particular municipality or their ward that might have particular challenges that other, for example, in rural versus a metro, small towns, and so forth. And also, in the context of where there is a well-performing municipality, or at least a better performing municipality, you can go on track records or you can attack. And that's what you oftentimes see is, the difference between a party that's sort of should we say, in power, or at least in coalition. And this is the nature, I think, of this local government elections is going to be very interesting, because the other thing is the polls are saying that people want to hear about how parties are going to work with each other. They don't want to hear about we're going to do this, we're going to do this in the sense of by ourselves, because I think most people realize that in large portions, and particularly in the metros, there's going to be coalition governments. So that, yes, that, individual councillors and others can burnish their reputations, and they can take and fill some of those gaps. But the core messaging is going to come from the party, and that means that it's got to be speaking to the needs of their core constituencies, and that's their homework. Who are the ones that they're going to speak to? Who are they going after? And whether that's in the age or geographical or gender or whatever the case might be.
Lastly, what about the role of personality in determining who gets your vote? Whether it's the high-profile personality like a mayor, as in Dada Morero, or Herman Mashaba, Alan Zilla, I'm talking about Joburg now, or whether it is your local councillor. So someone listening to us right now from Grassy Park, whatever, a local councillor there. How important is their personality and their public interface in determining who gets a vote?
I think it's more important than it used to be, and the reason why is because of social media. So you now, if you're socially media savvy, if you have a presence, if you can speak to the particular, I was mentioning the more younger constituents in particular, you spend a lot more time on social media, and your message can be creative, sharp, and short. Then your personality, and people like you. You might be funny, humorous. They might think you're more serious, or whatever the case might be. Or you go after and you make fun of others, and some people like that too. So in that case, I think social media has changed the game in terms of making personalities much more important. In the local government, it's not as important to be, for example, on television all the time, but radio is also an underestimated medium, which more people in our country listen to than any other broadcasting medium. So that's another thing. If someone's good, if they're well-spoken, if they can pull people in and debate and people get interested, well, of course, that's going to help them in the local government election. It's going to help them party and not themselves just individually, but their collective as well.
And just lastly, I mean, the magic of, having a social media presence is one thing, but the magic of a narrative, a message. Any thoughts on that quickly?
Yeah, so I think it's in some ways, I don't know if those who are younger that are listening might not remember it, but in 1994 we had a party called KISS, if you remember, KISS.
Keep it simply stupid or something like that.
Correct.
Or simple, yeah.
Keep it simple, stupid. And basically I think that's the message in some ways. We have so much information, there's so many competing. I think we have 500 parties that are going to compete in these local government elections. Now we can get down to the top 10, should we say. But nonetheless, it's a crowded field. What makes you stand out? And that's the message in the sense. Keep it simple, keep it on point, and make it. And don't just try. I think the ANC is, if they've learned anything, which I'm hoping they have, you just can't repeat the same thing again and again and hope to get the better results.
And that's where we leave it, Dr. Dale McKinley, political analyst and researcher. Looking ahead, first shot really at the local government election. Now that we have the date, 4th of November. Pencil it in now. Let's get the news headlines. Here's Greg.
Quick look at the headlines. The Minister of Cooperative Governance has called for peaceful and non-confrontational campaigning for the elections. The Office of the AG at the Equileni municipality says it's evaluating audit-related matters after some officials were implicated at the Madlanga Commission. And a blockade around Mali's capital is tightening. More on that story and other news at the top of the hour.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Joburg N3 fairly busy today from Modderfontein all the way down to Edenvale. The N1 up through Midrand and Pretoria, not too bad. You might be expecting a bit of a mess being a long weekend, but it's all right. It's moving okay. N12 down through Soweto towards Protea Glen. Big backlogs there as well. Durban, a lot of pressure around the Komashu area. Chris Honey across the N2 up to Duffs Road, absolutely solid. Behind that, the N2 North to get off at Komashu, very slow. A breakdown after Gateway. That's jam-packed on your way towards the airport. And the N2 South looks like a breakdown before Spaghetti Junction coming through from Gedde Road. All of a sudden, that's very slow as well. Bit of pressure on the N2 South down towards the Higginson Highway off-ramp. Cape Town, a lot of localised congestion today. Goodwood, Elsie's River, Parow. Motorists either stuck on the N7 into the roadworks or looking at alternative routes locally to avoid it. And that's jamming those up. Southern suburbs, Claremont, Rondebosch, Newlands, all fairly tight as well. Don't forget the N14 through the Northern Cape closed, south of Vryburg towards Kuruman. The bad flooding there just north of Kuruman. That road is closed. A lot of other routes are badly flooded in the Northern Cape. Please check before travelling this weekend. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
This is SAFM Sports with Doming Kapele.
Right, Jimmy, we've had the Comrades to talk about. We've had other things. We've had World Cup issues. We've had Wade van Niekerk. What do you want to talk about now?
Well, we still talk about the Comrades Marathon, where the Comrades Marathon Association has confirmed the distance for the 2026 uprun will be 85.7 kilometers on the 14th of June, the shortest uprun in recent years. Organizers say that the reduced distance is due to route changes, including roadworks, a new finish layout, and also adjustments along key sections of the course. Officials believe the shorter route could lead to faster times, with both the men's and the women's records potentially under threat. The current men's record is just over 5 hours and 24 minutes, while the women's record set in 2024 is just under 5 hours and 15 minutes. In football, Sports Minister Gayton McKenzie has called on stricter seating rules at football matches. He raised concerns about the recent game at FNB Stadium between Orlando Pirates and Kaizer Chiefs, where overcrowding and fake tickets caused safety fears. Some fans without valid tickets managed to enter the stadium, putting others at risk. And McKenzie also warned that fans sitting anywhere instead of their assigned seats make the situation worse.
To say something on the derby, because you spoke about the derby. There's something that's very disturbing that's happening with the derby, and I want to talk to the supporters. I go to rugby games, I go to cricket games. How come there's not this stampedes? Nobody dies at rugby games. People died at Ellis Park. People died before that at Orkney. You can't sit on a seat. They need to number the seats. Why can people go to rugby and you sit on your seat? But in football, we don't sit on our seats. Are we people of ill discipline, or are we not being trusted? I want to say I'm meeting stadium management next week. Again, from now on at all the derbies after this weekend, we need you to have a ticket number. You need to sit on your seat.
Meanwhile, it's a good day for Kaizer Chiefs legend Dr. Khumalo, as he has received a special honor this afternoon, with his name elevated with an honorary doctorate. He was conferred with the Doctor of Philosophy and Science honoris causa from the Faculty of Science. Tshwane University of Technology described the honorary doctorate as one of the highest academic honors awarded to individuals whose impact extends beyond their professional field. Elsewhere, former England forward Ashley Young has announced that he will retire at the end of the season, closing the curtain on a career spanning more than 2 decades. The 40-year-old made over 750 club appearances and scored 88 goals across spells with Watford, Aston Villa, Manchester United, Inter Milan and Everton. In rugby, with just 2 rounds left before the SA Cup semi-finals, the chase for playoff spots is reaching boiling point. Leaders Griquas, unbeaten on 35 points, host third place SWD Eagles in Kimberley on Saturday, while the Falcons face the Leopards and Griffins meet Eastern Province. Sunday's spotlight falls on Bombela, where defending champions Airlink Pumas take on Boland Cavaliers in a crucial top 4 clash. The Cheetahs level with Boland on 25 points, but behind on points difference, travel to East London to face Border. Meanwhile, in athletics, Kenya's Sebastian Sawe received a hero's welcome in Nairobi. This is after becoming the first athlete to run a marathon in under 2 hours in race conditions. Sawe clocked 1 hour 59 minutes 30 seconds to win in London on Saturday, and President William Ruto lauded the achievement as a defining moment in human endurance, comparing it to Roger Bannister's 4-minute mile and even the moon landing. In cricket, Proteas women coach Mandla Mashimbi believes that Captain Laura Forvard has what it takes to be the greatest women's cricketer of all time by the time that she retires. At just 27 years of age, Forvard has established herself as a vital cog in a South African senior women's team, and also one of the most revered batters of the modern game throughout the world. Mashimbi says that he's expecting even more in the next decade and continue to break more records. Then in golf, reports in U.S. media says that Saudi Arabia's sovereign wealth fund will stop financing Live Golf at the end of the 2026 season, casting serious doubt over the breakaway tour's future. The Public Investment Fund has poured billions into the league since its 2022 launch, luring stars like Bryson DeChambeau and Phil Mickelson. But sources told the Wall Street Journal and CNBC that Riyadh will withdraw support, forcing Liv to explore strategic alternatives. On that note, it is a wrap from my side. Ke nna Tumi Nkgapele. Modimo.
Thanks for that, Tumi. Yeah, more sports from Tumi. Well, tomorrow is a public holiday, just so you know.
Kathy Mutlatlana on the National Briefing.
When again we look at these numbers, right, it's recorded as teen pregnancy, but it really should in fact be sexual abuse. How much of it can be categorized as such?
Yes, definitely there is the element of statutory rape. Where we're having an issue is that many of these cases are not recorded because family members do not want to actually open up a criminal charge against the perpetrator. More awareness needs to be done around the statutory part of it. And then the finance element comes in as well. Families are being paid off so as not to record this as statutory rape.
Adeshni Naka, she's the Director Operations Manager at Childline KwaZulu-Natal.
This is Kathy Mutlatlana on the National Briefing.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
So, Jimmy, all week there's been conversations around regulations around AI, but there's also cryptocurrency regulations, right?
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Good afternoon to the listeners. There certainly is. There are draft proposals being put forward by the government of South Africa that have caused quite the stir in the crypto community. Amongst these discussions, the government wants South Africans to potentially declare their crypto within 30 days or risk having that crypto be forfeited to the state. Now, we know that the crypto world and the crypto landscape for many, many years was considered somewhat of a taboo area not to be spoken about, and then we decided to regulate it as an asset class, and we've gone through many different life cycles of cryptos. We're going to be taking a look at the latest proposals by the government and how it is that they wish to classify this. If you remember, there was a court case a little while ago that the government, or that set precedent rather, around the fact that crypto would not be deemed currency but would be classified potentially as capital. We're going to be looking at that in a bit more detail and trying to understand what the latest proposals could potentially mean for cryptocurrency traders and investors alike. We're also going to have a conversation with the team at VDM Incorporated on the Gautrain expansion plans. We know that these plans have been in the works for many, many, many years, and even so, we still have not yet seen new stations come up. We might see a bit of progress coming up now, but it means we've got a new set of conversations to be had around the people that could potentially be displaced. So we're going to look at that and see what some of the legalities around that could look like. Then we have a conversation with the team at Innate, taking a look at investment platforms and how to navigate that. And then we're going to wrap up the show with a small business conversation. We've got an SME coming into studio to see us and tell us about their business and share their business with the SAFM community. So that's what's coming up on the show later on. For now, a sense of some of the market movements throughout the day. It was a torrid day if we had to look at the oil price. I suppose if you're an oil producer, you wouldn't necessarily think that, but we did have some green shoots on the equities front. Yesterday was a very red day for equities. Today was the exact opposite, a very green day. The Asian markets were the only markets really in the red, but of course they traded into the morning and sort of missed some of the news that came out after that. The Nikkei was down 1%, the Hang Seng was down 1.2%, the ASX and City down about 0.25%, but local markets and European markets and US markets all in the green at the moment. European markets, biggest winner there, the FTSE in London, 1.6% up. South African markets, resource stocks 2.6% to the green, industrials 0.55%, and financials a little over 0.1% to the green. The all share 1.1% up, as was the top 40. Commodities side of things, all commodities having a really bullish day. Gold about $600 a fine ounce. Platinum still below 2,000, but around $1,970 a fine ounce. Palladium 1,492, just under 1,500. Silver still below $75. The Brent crude price, sadly, is still above $110. Depending on some exchanges, we saw some markets reporting as high as $124 on the Brent price, depending on which contracts you were looking at there as well. But at the moment, still very, very expensive there. Quick look at currencies before we head out. 16 Rand 70 is one US dollar will cost you at the moment 22 Rand 69, 1 British pound, and 1 euro 19 Rand and 60 cents. One Bitcoin, $76,400 a Bitcoin. In Rand terms, 1.275 million Rand. I'm going to be looking at these and other market movements when I come back just after the 6 p.m. news. For now, Ashraf, back to you.
Perfect. Enjoy your show, which effectively is like the last day of the weekend. It's a strange one indeed. This particular weekend, and the previous one too, isn't it?
You're listening to the National Pulse.
Right, let's, as you know, we do this Madlanga Commission wrap every day around this time, right? So what happened today? The suspended director for asset protection services at the Tshwane Metro Police Department, Chukudu Malaji, testified at the commission. One of the issues Malaji testified on is the cancellation of the ad hoc security contract in the Tshwane Metro. So Malaji says he was unable to implement an instruction by the Deputy Police Chief, Revo Spies, to cancel all, or SPIS in this case, all ad hoc security contracts. Now, the suspended director for Asset Protection Services, Malaji, then said, it's not true that by instructing his subordinates to run with the process, well, he meant they should continue deploying security. So he's denied that.
Okay. It is not true that by instructing them to run with the process, I was meaning that they should continue deploying security, because they themselves know very well that in order for deployment to be carried out, right, there must be a...
Are you going to refer to the SOP again?
Exactly, right.
And it starts with what? With the request from the relevant department?
Exactly, and
which there was here. There are repeated requests.
Yes,
and Mr. Sekholela goes so far as to say there's continuing vandalism. So there is a request.
Yes, Commissioner, I agree with you. There is a request. But that request, it runs short of critical information that is necessary for both of us to comply with the SOP that I alluded to earlier on. There shall be no deployment done unless the department requesting security has committed funds to service the deployment. Number two, the department...
As you sit there, are you able to say no funds had been committed as you sit there? Or are you making an assumption?
At this point in time, at the point when we were communicating...
As you sit there now, are you saying funds were not committed? Or are you making an assumption that they were not?
No, if my memory serves me well, there were no funds committed at that point in time.
And there's more. Malaji then acknowledged that the SOP sets out the steps that must be followed.
Not so that the standard operating procedure, the SOP, is about steps that must be followed from the time a request is made up to the time a deployment is authorized. And you said that indeed is so. Do you remember that? That was my first question, and your response was in the affirmative. Do you remember that?
I do.
Yes. So what I'm saying now is, so the SOP is up to the point of deployment So once you have authorization that there be a deployment, you have covered all the SOP steps. You are done with the SOP steps. Do you still follow me?
I do.
Yes. Now, you are given an instruction to cancel. You do not cancel. And you say one of your reasons for not canceling was that they did not observe the contents of the SOP. Now I'm saying cancellation is way beyond deployment. Deployment or authorization of deployment being the last step of the SOP. So cancellation is beyond all that. And I'm saying I do not understand what the relevance of the SOP steps or content is when you are talking about cancellation. Surely you understand me. Do you understand me?
I hope I understand you. And
so why was that relevant when you refused to cancel? Why was the SOP of relevance?
The SOP will remain relevant, Commissioner. 4, this SOP is an instruction.
To do what? To do what?
It's an
instruction on what?
It's an instruction to the departments.
Towards deployment.
Towards deployment.
And once you deploy, you are done with SOP, aren't you? Once you've deployed, you are done with SOP, correct?
Correct.
Yes. Why does it become relevant now beyond that point?
It became relevant, Commissioner, because of the actual deployment that were carried out without observing or taking this SOP into consideration.
And then it continues. Malachi then speaks about taking responsibility and shifting responsibility.
Are you there, Director Malachi?
I am.
So you'll see that it's a request from Deputy Chief Paul Hayes to the CFO and various other people, including supply chain. And then the email I'm reading from the third line, they are requesting the upliftment of funds to process ad hoc security invoices from the beginning of January to June 2025. Do you see that?
Yes.
And it is to the amount of 14 million rands for January, and then it is 16 million times 5 from February to June. And the total amount is 82 million. Do you see that?
I see.
That's just for ad hoc services.
Yes.
Now, if you do the simple maths, when you were instructed to cancel the ad hoc services on 13 March 2025 until the end of June, that's over 50 million rands.
I hear you, Commissioner.
What do you have to say about that?
I think there is something that I want the Commissioner to clear me on. It looks like everybody else, including the Chief of Police, Mr. Police, right? They are sort of taking themselves out of, they did not have any responsibility, so their responsibility was to give an
Spar Winner Car is back. Stand a chance to win one of 50 Hyundai Extras when you buy participating products. like 6-pack Spa Long Life full cream or low-fat milk for $89.99. Save 10 Rand. Or 900 gram Bacomo wheat bix for $52.99. Save 12 Rand. Price is valid from 22 April till 10 May. Shop, swipe, and win while stocks last. Only at Spar. T's and C's apply.
When you listen to me, I feel important. When you hug me, I feel safe. When you talk with me, I learn.
Your love and attention helps your child grow strong and confident. Listen, comfort, and connect with him, because every child deserves to feel seen, heard, and loved.
Visit holdmyhand.org.za.
SAFM has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Under the code, we are committed to giving news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that is not harmful, does not amount to hate speech, or contain violence or explicit sex. If you think we are not living up to that code, then you can inform the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Direct any complaints in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. PO Box 142365, Craig Hall 2024. Fax to 011-326-3198 or an email to bccsa@nabsa.co.za. For more information, please visit www.bccsa.co.za.
Right, you've been made aware of it, so let me remind you once again. 7 p.m. tonight on S3, it's the new season of Top Billing. And this time it brings you the very best in lifestyle, luxury, and inspiration. From breathtaking homes and dream destinations to exclusive access to the people shaping culture and success. This is where style meets substance and every story shines. So it happens tonight, 7 p.m. on S3, with a repeat on Tuesdays at 9:30. And you can also catch it on SABC Plus live streaming. Top Billing, the best of the good life.
You are listening to the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
So when we stopped, the Chikuru Malachi was talking about, blame being put elsewhere. Let's just replay that part again.
Everybody else, including the chief of police, Mr. Police, right? They are sort of taking themselves out of, they did not have any responsibility, so their responsibility was to give an instruction. And I'm taking exception for that because they even had more power than Director Malachi, right? And what is not making sense with me, right? Okay, theirs was to cancel, yet whatever I'm being appointed to do in the seat of Tshwane, right? I'm doing them in their, on their behalf. They are overall responsible for my own actions.
And then lastly, again, Malachi's really, of all the things he said, this is the key. He has become a victim.
This is forcing me, Commissioner, to place it on record. I am not surprised by the emphasis on Director Malachi, because when I testified on the 9th of April, I made a mention of the fact that I have become a victim. And these colleagues that I've spoken to, that I've spoken about their names, right? They've already demonstrated that they would stop at nothing in order to get rid of this Director.
Let me stop.
And that's Madlanga Rap. We'll do it again next week. Remember, tomorrow being a public holiday, being May Day, right? Yeah. We'll talk about labor issues tomorrow. We'll talk about you next.
Wherever you are in the world, SAFM 104 to 107 is accessible. We're also streaming live on Facebook, X, and YouTube at SAFM Radio. We acknowledge and appreciate everyone tuning in and watching our streams. Stay with SAFM 104 to 107 as we bring you Commission Live, breaking stories, and thought-provoking lectures. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
You're listening to the National Pulse.
Kali Kriel has tweeted saying, "Today I had a very constructive meeting with former President Jacob Zuma in Durban. We discussed issues such as the value of mother tongue education, the promotion of mutual recognition and respect between cultural communities, agricultural development in traditional communities, Section 235 of the South African Constitution. More meetings will follow. As a civil society organization, AfriForum remains outside of party politics. We are working for the next generation rather than the next election and securing a better future for the next generation. We are committed to engaging with all stakeholders in South Africa, even though we may differ on certain issues. We are committed to helping find solutions to the challenges the country and all of its people faces." And of course, he's got a picture, Kali Kriel, Jacob Zuma. What a combination that is. Right, quick comments from you.
Once again, respectfully so, University of South Africa manages to put their foot in their mouth. What did that lady say? What was she talking about? I don't understand why they would overlook talent in South Africa for research purposes as a reason why they are hiring foreign lecturers. I'm not xenophobic, but I think that we have a lot of talent in South Africa, and those are the people that we need to be prioritizing first.
Well, thank you for that input. Here's another.
Ashraf, people can be very unfair with these things of academics. I'm in academia, and there are skills that require international people because of their expertise. It's the same as when Kaizer Chiefs, Orlando Pirates, or Mamelodi Sundowns bring a foreign player to South Africa. No one says, no, but we have strikers in South Africa. They are taking their jobs. We have defenders in middle. No one says that. Everyone accepts that, okay, this is a quality structure. We need him for our team. How is it different for universities?
Well, I think that's precisely the point, isn't it? There's a quick comment from Tumelo at the end talking about the whole issue of Edgar Lungu, and bottom line saying, put your differences aside and bury the man, right? And the other news is Fateh Boutbik, spelled Boutbig. Fateh Boutbik is from Algeria. He's the newly elected president of the Pan-African Parliament. Thanks for listening in. Set your alarms tomorrow. Public holiday, May Day, we'll be there 3 to 6. Here's the news at 6 with Greg House.